so I'll let you know.
Should turn this down for somebody else message me.
All right, here we go. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Frank Analysis. I'm Franco, your host, and I'm joined today by Compton J. Afeni will be joining us shortly, both from Fred Hampton Leftists. We're going to be talking about the efficiency or inefficiency of electoral politics, community organizing, and disingenuous politicians. You guys may know what exactly I'm talking about if you have been keeping up with what Compton J and Afeni have been doing. Uh, but nonetheless, Compton J, thank you very much for being on the show, man. How are you? It's great to finally have you on.
I'm very happy to be on, and before we went on, I was just saying how I already knew, felt like this would always happen. Not about this topic, but we just run in too close of circles that this would never take place. So I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely, man. We gotta keep up the unity here and
Exactly.
learn from the mistakes of the old left, like we were saying, which
Mm-hmm.
they grew some egos, and now there's a lot of clashing. Whereas we are trying to be more united here with the new left,
Exactly.
podcast content creators. So you want to tell us a little bit about before we get started with some of these main questions, like what you do with Fred Hampton Leftists, like what is your show all about?
Yeah. So Fred Hampton Leftist is just an idea. That it started out as being sort of like a news show where Rome had sparked the idea. Then he brought me and Nick in, and we just tossed around ideas. And then the Fred Hampton's leftist thing kind of just fell in our lap. It wasn't planned. We just did an interview with a group of people we liked, and we said, why don't we start this with this group? And that's kind of how it evolved into what it is today. It was essentially going to be just one podcast panel, and then it evolved into multiple days, and now it evolved to what you see today. So I'm very proud of what the Fred Hampton Leftist has accomplished in just a short amount of time. And so we're doing that with the Fred Hampton Leftist. Also got the populist voice. I call myself a recovering liberal. Just not too far long ago, I was the person, the Obama shirt, buttons and all kind of Democrats. You couldn't say me anything about the Democratic Party and MSNBC. And it's just that evolution. And I'm now glad that I finally woke up and I'm here. So that's kind of like just a brief story about my history and Fred Hampton Leftist and what's going on.
Yeah, a lot of us are evolving. Some people are really evolving fast, especially after the 2020 election. A
Yes.
lot of us don't see electoral politics as a way forward, and I wanted to ask you, what are your thoughts? Do you see electoral politics as a way forward, or should we focus only or more so on direct action, community organizing on the ground? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, actually, that's exactly what I think. I think that, so I never say voting, don't stop, stop voting. So I'm not an advocate of that. What I'm saying is just, an unbiased analysis of the political landscape in the United States. Voting has lessened. The value of voting has lessened. That is just, to me, an empirical fact that it's the value of it has lessened with things like gerrymandering, with things like, poll tax, what they call, voter IDs. Like, it's just, and then when you're talking about the choices you have, like between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, it really it devalues the value of voting. So um, I believe the priority of voting needs to just be brought down, and direct action needs to be shot up to the top of the priority list when we're talking about activism and trying to march towards the goals that we all have with universal health care and living wage and all, getting money out of politics. And nothing ever has happened in the United States by voting. Like, nothing. Civil rights, women's suffrage, all things that has progressed this country, all progress that this country has attained is through direct action. And I'm saying, let's use the strategy that we have evidence that it shows this works, instead of trying to cram this, voting process, to get these things that we want. It's very disheartening. For example, you have great people, or people that were great, or who we thought were great in AOC, and then they get elected, and then the story, changes. So it's like, one, we have to get past the poll tax. Two, the options we have to select from are awful. Three, and I didn't mention this, like the protest is becoming a little less more effective, because they just kind of put you far away, sick the police state on you. So I'm saying, what I'm saying is, they're kind of forcing us down the path of direct action. Like, they're kind of forcing us to do it that way, because nothing else is effective.
Yeah, exactly. Or these politicians say everything that they can just to get elected. They want to look good for us.
Right.
Like, they know how, like, they go on these independent left shows. That's what AOC did. She's been on Jimmy Dore's show. She's been on a lot of these progressive shows when she was running for Congress. And then when they get in, like these Cory Bushes, these Ilhan Omars, they sell out for political expediency. And people are seeing through that. Like, we don't have enough time.
Exactly.
So we get what, like 100 AOCs and stuff?
Right.
And then for what? Like, they're still gonna do what the party leadership wants them to do. And so we're looking for solutions outside of that. And I think that's a step forward. To me, that's a step in the right direction. And then there's some people that still believe in electoral politics. I think that they can still implement change within the system. When you tell them this, they don't want to hear it. It's like they're attached to this idea that they themselves can make change, or that they can, like, have some tweaks around the edges, but they're mainly thinking about their career, their comfort, their comfort. They're comfortable.
Right.
And then when you try to break them out of that comfort, when you give them a dose of the reality, when they hear something like, oh no, I don't believe in electoral politics, and like, dang, that's like somebody who's not going to support me. They're going to tell a bunch of other people about how they look. They think that working outside of electoral politics is more efficient, and then I'm going to lose support. I'm not going to become a politician. So you ran into a situation, right? A conflict with Jen Perlman recently. So you want to tell us a little bit about that before I play a clip?
Yeah. Now Jen is someone who, I met through her campaign. So, and when I say I met, I mean online. So I knew through her campaign when she was running against Debbie Wasserman Schultz. That's how I met her. So, fast forward, Fred Hampton leftist, she hits me up. Now there's been this discourse, this so-called infighting. I don't really describe it that way, but this so-called infighting between people who call themselves leftists. I really think it's liberals who call themselves leftists fighting against actual leftists. That's the disagreement. That's my opinion. So she asked me to come on the show to talk about some of this division, and some other topics, to talk about the division and talk about the general strike that's coming up in October, and ways to move forward, and also the Democratic Party versus third parties versus both. Those were the topics that were sent to me. So we go on the show, and now I've never watched her show. So when I went on, the show was actually already happening. I guess we were just one of the segments of the show. So we go on with, the person they had previously. And I just felt like the conversation wasn't the conversation that we were told we were coming on to discuss. And it became just this democratic discussion that I didn't want any part of. Like, it almost assumed we were for all these things, the pro and like it assumed all these things, and it threw me off. And I wasn't happy about that because it gives the impression that Fred Hampton leftist is down for all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to make clear that wasn't the case. So throughout the conversation, it was just, it felt like veiled attacks on not necessarily on FHL, but what we represent in working outside of electoral politics. And it got to a point where we obviously were not going to agree.
Mm-hmm.
They and out of the blue, I think his name is Peter. Later on, I find his name is Peter. Out of the blue, during this disagreement, he brings up reparations, and it's like we weren't talking about reparations at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like we were talking about, they were saying we should move forward as a labor movement, and talking about a lot of unity. And let me translate that. That basically means that let's get behind labor because we all can agree on this. All this other stuff we disagree on, we're not gonna take care of. We're just gonna go off this labor. And I don't want unity, is what I explained to him. I want solidarity. I don't want unity. And it felt like there was a buildup, and maybe they didn't like a lot of the responses I got. I said on air, I said, I've never seen your show, Jen. I don't watch it. I've never seen an episode. That may have hit hard for her. And then the final straw was Peter says, we agree with you and Afeni on these things, but it just becomes a point where it just seems like he tried to make it seem like the strategy that of we're talking about working outside of the outside game
Mm-hmm.
wasn't really feasible. And he paused, and then he says, we support reparations. I was shocked because we weren't talking about reparations. It was no reason for him to bring it up. And I felt it was textbook pandering because it was at a juncture where we obviously have a disagreement and we're not gonna agree. So it was kind of like, oh, come back.
Desperation.
I'm in for reparations. Come on, reparations. If I'm from reparations, I can't be against you, right? It was that. And then I just took a breath. I was trying to hold it in. I looked down. I was just like, do not pander to me, man. This is just ridiculous. And that's just kind of how it unfolded. And when I began to say the pandering thing, that's when the live stream was cut.
Yeah, it felt. I can't imagine it almost felt like insulting. I just want to make sure does my audio sound good because there's people saying that they can't hear me.
Now I can hear
well,
you.
right?
I can hear you fine. Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Guys, can you hear me well? Please let me know in the live chat. So I'm gonna. In the meantime, I will play that clip.
Yes.
But absolutely, when I heard that, it did feel like he was desperately trying to find something to convince you guys to support electoral politics.
Yes. That's exactly it.
Let me need to be closer to the mic. I'm as close as I can be. Testing.
Yeah, I can hear you fine. A little
Does
louder.
it sound like I'm across the room?
Oh, I see Shabby there. What's up, Shab?
Volume
Yeah, she's
low.
gonna. Maybe it's mine they're talking about. Let's see. Test. Okay.
So Jay's audio's fine, but not Franco's. That's interesting.
Okay. Yeah, I can hear you fine, by the way.
Okay. Testing, guys. Can you hear me well? Mic not working. What about now, guys? Do I sound loud? I increased the volume. Do I still low? Not on the mic. All right. Well, I'm gonna play this clip, and while I play it, I'm gonna figure out what's going on. All right. So Viorella retweeted this video, which was captured by Reef. Said the worst thing you can do when having a conversation about an issue that you clearly fail to understand is not listen and silence criticism to protect yourself from your own discomfort. This is the personification of the white moderate. Right. So we'll play it here.
No, what I'm saying is, I think that there comes a point where the entire thing just becomes useless in terms of where we're currently going. And so I totally understand where you and Afeni come in the whole concept of the movement. You know, that's why we are here. We absolutely support reparations. We've actually very vocal.
Please don't pander to me. Please do
There is
not
Jay,
pander to me right in my face. Do not do that, because what?
Jay. Okay.
Done.
It is clear that the
No, you just rambled off something.
no. What I'm saying is, I think that there is.
So yeah, you did that. He paused and he was trying to think of something to say, right? You want to add on anything to that?
Yeah, no, it's just what I saw. He paused and he wanted to reel me back in. But if you notice in the beginning of his comments, he says something about it becomes ridiculous or unattainable, or I forget the word he used. But he's saying the strategy of working outside of the system is basically ridiculous. It becomes, what was the word he said? I think he did say ridiculous, but anyway, if you replay it, it's something like that, and that's what he's referring to. And then he says, "But I agree with you guys on what?" And then he throws in the reparations because he was really at a loss for words. But then you listen to Jen and the tone that she takes when she says "done." You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. I'm finished. Be gone. You get what I'm saying? Like, that's yeah. And then the rambling that I was told that she did after we were gone, like she never wanted us on there. And then these people comments over and over. It's just
this one, right?
Yes. Let's yes.
Let's take a listen to that. Yeah.
Okay.
If you want to go,
because I tell you, what's so frustrating about that to me is that the other day when I was watching Tim basically have like a meltdown on his stream because all his people are freaking dying, and that he doesn't have time that these people are taking to do their actions, form their third parties and whatever they're doing, and for them to go out of their way in so many cases to sabotage Nia. This is what set him off, because he's like, our people are dying. And so the desperation is the same. And for people to come on and be like, they came on here to ambush us. I kind of suspected that. I called it days ago. I was unhappy about this for days. We debated canceling and not even having them. But I'm like, okay, well, if we do that, then they're just going to. But the truth is, and here's the truth to everybody, I'm not on social media. I'm not. Haven't been for about 6 months now. So while people can sit there and say whatever they want about me, and they say it to be hurtful, that's really their purpose. This is all about being hurtful, and just being arrogant and whatever, and not trying to get along, and not trying to just like try to come up with solutions, especially from people that really don't know anything about me. It's like, I just don't need that.
Again,
so talk about me all you want.
You chose to do what you were going to do. I was going to, again, have the conversation, but
I chose to do what I was going to do. What do you mean?
No, I mean, again, you wanted to, end the conversation because.
As soon as he was talked to me and just said whatever you were rambling about to me, I was about to remove him right then and there. But you were in the middle of talking to him. You don't come on that's coming into my home and talking to me like that. I don't deserve that. There's nothing I did that deserved that kind of vitriol, with the exception of they came on purposefully to do that, which was their plan. And, I do put this 100% on you in front of everybody. He created this. I didn't want these people to come on. And now here we are. And there was no win from this. This is never going to be a win. And
so saying that you believe in working outside the system is hurtful. Am I getting that right? Yeah. What exactly is she saying is hurtful?
Yeah, it's just her descriptions as if she's the victim is just, it's ridiculous. And I gotta say this before I move on. That picture of Thurgood Marshall behind her is just the type and the level of virtue signaling that the Black community and people of color get from these white liberals is just disgusting. It is simply disgusting for her to have the audacity to put that up there and then say these people. Like that's it's just so ironic to me. But yes, but you can clearly hear, Franco, in this video, she never wanted us on. Why? And I don't know you. What did I say personally about her? Like she's making it as if she's the victim. I didn't say anything personal about her. As a matter of fact, she wasn't even mentioned. And she was offended because I didn't watch her show. Did I mention that here? I forget. I was just having a conversation.
She considers that hurtful.
That's what offended her. Yeah. And then when I said she was just rambling on, which she did, she was just rambling on, and I didn't care to pay attention to your rambling. But if you notice, Franco, when she described the conversation she had with Tim, and she's describing it as if she understands the plight of these people who are seeing this as an urgent thing, because because she's seeing it through the lens of we don't have the time to do a third party. We all have to jump on to the Democratic Party because all these people are dying. It's preposterous that a Democrat would look at it that way as a way to funnel people back to the Democratic Party. It's ridiculous to me. And then to bring up Tim is the Medea of politics. Nobody pays attention. He's funny. That's it. Nobody takes him seriously.
So she thinks that because she spoke to Tim Black, that she spoke to all Black people, as if you guys all as if you don't all have your own individual perspectives.
Exactly.
And
of all people, Tim Black. Yeah. And of all people, Tim Black. Like if you say, hey, I spoke to Breonna Joy Gray, or I spoke to Anthony Clark, like you're gonna bring up Tim Black? It's just ridiculous. But these are the people. There always has to be that person of color that they can say, see, you know what I mean? It's almost like her saying, this is my Black friend. You get what I'm saying? Without saying it, like this. Hey guys, this is my Black friend. See, I'm not racist. So, whatever.
I talk to Black people. See,
exactly.
So then she tried to apologize to you guys.
Yeah.
And let me share that here. And then I don't see anything blue here. There was nobody tagged here. Said Peter and I want to apologize for how we handled an uncomfortable situation on our podcast last night. We should have listened better and learned. We appreciate Jay and Afeni coming on, but it's clear we don't see eye to eye on strategy. All my best. Keep fighting the good fight, Jen. So what are your thoughts on her apology? Do you think it was sincere?
Well, I mean, I must say she did DM me an apology, very similar to what it said there. It wasn't, verbatim, but very similar. I replied to her, thank you, and I accept her apology. As far as do I feel it's authentic? Absolutely not. None whatsoever. I absolutely don't even think she's the one who wrote it, to be quite honest with you.
She said she's not on social media. It's mainly Peter.
Is Twitter social media? I thought that was social media. But what does she mean by that? What is she trying to say by I'm not on social media? Like what is the extent? It was a lot of coded language that liberals, I mean, I know what it is because I used to be a liberal, but it's a lot of coded liberal language and what she was saying after we went off the air. A lot of coded liberal language. These people, that's a total Amy Cooper comment. That's a total Amy Cooper liberal call the police on the Black Bird Watcher comment.
So I've analyzed on this show, and I know you guys at Friend Hampton Leftists have analyzed how these are what politicians say before they get elected, and then this is what they do afterward. So they try to sell us. They try to sell themselves to us so that we can vote for them or help advertise their brand.
Right.
And they also want to advertise themselves to some moderate Democrats, since they're running as Democrats. right? And that's so it was a couple months ago when Jen Perlman had she had a stream where she had a bunch of people to talk about Julian Assange, and then she gave the advice to Nina Turner to be careful with that and to not talk about Julian Assange. So she's giving advice about pandering there. So that's what they think. I was like, how can I pander best to these groups of people? And then I called her out on that. And then like I quote retweeted it, right? And then I was like, this is, clear pandering. Like, why would you not talk about Julian Assange? This is showing that you're not authentic on your beliefs. Right. And then she messaged me, or Peter messaged me, since she said she's not on social media and hasn't been on for months. Said, hey Frank, I don't like the public spat game, but if you're interested in doing a crossover podcast, let me know. AK, he was laying down the chess piece so that I can make the move and be like, yeah, come on my show. But it's like, I'm not gonna bring you on the show if you're just trying to to just sell your brand. And I said, thanks for reaching out. I'll be completely honest with you and address my concerns about you here. Number one, obviously, being silent on Assange and putting career over truth is something I expressed already to the public. I find it counterproductive. We don't have time for people playing politics and leaving the masses uninformed. People want honesty. And the consistent pattern I've seen from quote-unquote progressive politicians is that they toe the line with the establishment even more after they get elected. They can't say Assange's name now or else we won't get $15 minimum wage or Medicare for all. That's the excuse that they use, right? And then we don't get it. Number two, the lack of on-the-ground organizers in the telethon. I mean, she was clearly lacking that there. It was a bunch of personalities with blue checkmark people. And then the third is her relationship with Vash. And that's something interesting because Vash has said a lot of racist comments. He's defended pedophilia. But I see her being more fair to him, more respectful to him than she is to you and Afeni.
Mm-hmm. What it is, Franco, is that white America is offended by black pain. They're offended. It's like they're tired of hearing of it. And I blame their ancestors because this is the thing. We relive this every generation where white people are discovering that their ancestors are terrible people, or some of their ancestors are terrible people. And it's that rediscovering because America doesn't want their kids to know what they did to get to this place. Mm-hmm. So it's always this rediscovering, and white America, when they hear this pain from indigenous people, you know what I mean? It's like, what? No, this is not America. This is not America. I can't see this. Mm-hmm. They're offended. I'm going to cut your live stream because this pain that you're expressing, Compton J, we don't want to see this. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? We want some liberal stuff. We want brunches and we don't want to see bad stuff happening. And that's the problem. We can't talk frankly to white America about issues that people of color have because they don't want to hear about the pain, because then you have to do something about it. You get what I'm saying? Like, you can't hear pain and not do anything about it. And every time we bring this up, Franco, in this interview, if you notice in that interview, Afeni mentions death, pain, they brush completely over it. There is no acknowledgement of it. They just go, oh, and they go to the next thing. It makes them really, really uncomfortable. And that is the biggest issue I see with teaming up with one of the issues I see with teaming up with white liberals. And the other thing I want to say is this: as far as her relationship with Voss, I think we all have had enough evidence to know that Jen is not the person she wants to portray herself to be. Mm-hmm. Right now, leftist and progressive issues are very, very popular right now. especially among the youth. And if you're a person like Jen who's trying to look into politics to make this a career for 20, 30 years, that means you need young people. That means you got to say all of the stuff that young people are into. But in her case, it also means you're not going to really do anything. Like in that episode, she wanted to talk so much about 2022, and we were like, 2022? People are dying now. What do you mean 2022 and all of the like what's happening today? And this is another thing they said on there. Oh, wherefore this is what liberals do. When they're liberals, but they're claiming to be leftists. Oh no, we're for voting and we're for direct action. Really? Let me check your feed. Let me check your timeline. Let me see how many times you mentioned direct action versus the many times you mentioned electoral politics. Let's see if you're for both. And that was another point I think that I brought up in the interview that kind of pissed them off, because I said we can say we're for both, but if 80% of your conversation is about electoral politics, is that really true? And I would say no, it's not.
I could be mistaken, but the only videos I've seen of her on the ground is when she's was campaigning for herself, like back in 2020, and then she's talking about 2022. Let's take action right now. Like people think like, oh, like elections are one day. You're only gonna get out and do something like every 2 years, every 4 years.
No,
you have to take action every day. Like that's like, and you're putting all this hope in somebody to fix your problems. And no, like no one's gonna come and save you. Like the only person that will save you is yourself. So you gotta take action. Or the least you can do is share information to people and tell them about events that are happening. If you know, I don't know, if you're afraid to go outside or something. But yeah, Afeni had a lot of powerful things that she said in that interview. And I didn't see the whole thing, so I don't know how Jen reacted to that. But you're telling me that she was just like, oh, okay, and then like just moved on to the next thing, trying to bring the conversation to electronics. So I'm just gonna play this, and then we're gonna share our thoughts, and hopefully Afeni joins us so we can hear from her too. But she's with us in spirit right now.
Right, exactly.
And standing in solidarity with Black people and Indigenous people, and standing in solidarity with working class white people is not the same thing. So yes, labor is important, and we should very much talk about solidarity through labor. But when you talk about FDR, you also forget that a lot of those labor protections were not afforded to Black people. So what is divides I see on the left is a sense of urgency that lacks on the white counterparts, the white leftists, the white whatever, that are a part of this movement. Like when working class people, especially working class Black people who don't have health care, Black women that are on Medicaid disproportionately, so they're dying on delivery tables 3 times more than white women, our urgency is a little different. And so when we get upset at our representatives for not actually representing us, it's because people are dying. White people are dying too, but Black people are dying disproportionately, not only at the hands of the police, but at the hands of our doctors, at the environmental racism, the infrastructural racism that we're dealing with. So I feel like when white leftists use the word solidarity and Black leftists use the word solidarity, there's very, very different meanings. And when, we don't take heed to that sense of urgency, as the left, we disenfranchise so many Black and Indigenous people. When we tell them that they need to hurry up and wait for some human rights that we have been deserving of, that we've constantly being left out of, because even Lyndon Baines Johnson was a racist white man. Regardless of whatever you want to yes, he wrote the piece of paper, and civil rights is what it is, right? But civil rights is not challenged in the nucleus of their power. The nucleus of their power is economic and financial power, the war power. So when we pass civil rights legislation, that doesn't actually challenge the power structure of this country. It just doesn't. But actually investing in the Black community, actually investing in working class communities, actually investing in Indigenous communities, that changes the power structure of this country. And that's the reason why, I understand what y'all are saying. Yes, electoral politics is important. Yes, that is a tactic. But we have to build an infrastructure.
And it goes on.
change the power structure of this country. And that's the reason why, like, I understand what y'all are saying. Like, yes, electoral politics is important. Like, yes, that is a tactic. But we have to build an infrastructure outside of the government. Seriously. Like, the type of things that we're looking for are not going to come through legislation without a real demand.
I think that was it. Yeah.
And if people are not making that real demand by escalating action, then like what exactly are we talking about here? Because we sent AOC and all of them to Congress to fight for these same things that y'all are saying. So then we elect however many more. What is that really going to do in a white supremacist system that's on, like, in a country that was built on stolen land by stolen people? This federal government is bought and paid for. So we're trying to go through the federal government to dismantle this same white supremacist genocidal country that we have been since the beginning. Since 1619, since the first slave was brought here. We've been that country. So why we think that same system is going to dismantle itself if we keep sending all these great people to it? That doesn't really make sense to me. Like,
it's like trying to clean like a bucket of dirty water with like just drops of clean water. If you believe in reformism, like someone can have like the good intentions, but like what good is that if you're just one person? The best you can do is try to expose how problematic the system is because of how problematic it'll be to pass legislation which will be approved by the lobbyists and by these corporations. Like before any of these bills get passed, they have to approve it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I always say that. Actually, let me bring this point up only because I don't want to lose it. When she mentions the solidarity there, she actually is talking about that because I know you didn't watch the whole interview, so I want to set that up. She's talking about that because Peter is using the word unity in the beginning a lot. Yeah, unity. Then I tell him, we're not interested in unity. We're interested in solidarity. Then he co-opts the word in the conversation and begins to stop using unity. He's using solidarity every time he's saying it. I'm like, wait. Let me explain, because you're using the word not how I believe we're meaning it. So let me, then I, explained it to him. But yeah, it was funny, and that's where that clip picks up, where she's talking about solidarity. Listen, these people are just simply looking for numbers. Mm-hmm. They're looking for numbers, and they're looking for what carrot will work on people of color, indigenous people, to get them to vote for them, even though they're not going to do anything. That's essentially what I view is that what they're trying to do. But to speak about what Afeni is talking about, mutual aid, building outside of the government. This is a conversation we've been talking about more and more with the Fred Hampton leftists. Nick has been involved, just shooting the shit. I guess I can say that in here. Talking about how we need to find a way or build up our mutual aid to where we're literally operating independently of the government. Like the government is doing little things and we're just kind of like, oh, how cute. They did this. They passed that. Like, because it has nothing to do with us. Like, we're going to do what we're going to do. We're going to take care of our communities, that type of thing. That's in my opinion, is what it's going to take for more people to wake up, for more people to say, hey, yeah, this duopoly is just not working, because look at what we're doing independently of them. Why can't our government do this? So I really believe that is one of the components to a successful revolution, along with education, like what we're doing, what you're doing, Franco, educating the people, breaking down propaganda, all of that together. I'm sorry, did I answer the initial question? I know it was a lot. I'm sorry.
No, you did.
Okay, perfect.
You did, about how all they do is kick the can down the road.
Exactly.
They want us to be happy with just that. Like they want us to be happy with crumbs. No, we're not going to be happy with that, man. We're going to fight for the full table. And I don't want to miss what this person brought up here, which said Jen was very threatened by Afeni. That's why they cut her off as well. they didn't want Afeni by herself. Too much smoke for them because you were the one that got upset.
Right.
And so Afeni wasn't. She was just, she put her head down.
Right.
It was,
Right. Because I spoke to her later. I was like,
Yeah.
Afeni, did I see you duck down or something? There she goes. I was like, Afeni, did I see you duck down in the middle of that? And she was like, yeah, I just could. Because it was, I think
I was
that if
dead ass
Afeni was,
laughing.
if she was able to be on that stream, because she had some streaming issues, if she was able, I think she would have lost her cool a lot quicker than I. Like even when he said the reparations, if you look at it, like it took me a few seconds to say, like, don't, because I was trying to hold it together, but it was so blatant in my opinion that reparations, we weren't having any conversation about that, and just all of a sudden we're for reparations. But yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, what's up, Afeni? Nice to meet you. You wanna?
Hey, sorry. First of all, clearly I don't know how long weddings are, so my bad, y'all.
No, you're
This is my
good.
first one. But hi, my name's Afeni. I'm one of the co-hosts of Fred Hampton Leftist,
Yeah.
and I'm also a member of Freedom Fighters DC. Please donate to my grassroots org. But y'all are talking about like the reparations comment itself.
Well, he just played the video of you where you're talking, you're talking about the black plight, or just indigenous plight, black plight, brown plight. And, you beautifully lay it out. And we were talking about how their reaction. It's kind of like to skip over black pain. Like they never want to address it. They just kind of skip over it. So he played your video, and like, we were just talking about what were you thinking? What were your thoughts at that time?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I didn't even really get to fully into my point. Number one, because I kept going in and off the stream, but number two, because like they did not seem open to what I had to say, and I genuinely feel like Jay said that I probably would have lost my cool first, but I've talked to Proud Boys, I've talked to racists before, like blatant racists that are disrespectful, and I didn't lose my cool then, but with them it was just like the dismissal of what we were saying. And then just the blatant, like, just because we give you some pushback or give you some context from a black perspective, you automatically think that we're being combative or we don't agree with you. We said multiple times, we believe in an inside-outside strategy. We just don't believe in relying on the inside without an outside infrastructure. That doesn't make any sense.
Right.
And, it just kind of showed me that, they want black bodies to, cosplay with. They want black people to come and nod and say everything that they want them to say and not make them uncomfortable. And, me as a black person, as a black queer organizer, period, like, you're going to respect my blackness first. And if you can't stand in solidarity with me and see me as a black person and respect that, then number one, you're not a leftist. And number two, I don't want to be in fucking community with you anyway. Period.
Right.
So I had to call, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that to me, that is such an important point that a lot of white allies, some don't get. Like, you have to stand in solidarity. You have to be with us in the bad times, not just on the easier fights. You get what I'm saying? Like the easier fights, you can't be with the Juneteenth fight and then not be with us with the ending qualified immunity fight. You get what I'm saying? Like that's what we're saying. The solidarity is with the ending qualified immunity, not some sort of Juneteenth fake, capitalist corporate holiday. And I think that's where it's such a gap in understanding on that part.
They have to stand by when it actually is threatening, the establishment, the status quo, the corporations.
Right.
Not just these symbolic like grand gestures.
Right.
So, Afeni, you've been on the ground, like you spoke to some of these politicians before. So you want to tell us a bit about your strategy? Are you trying to change their hearts, or are you trying to expose them, or are you trying to do both? What is your approach when you talk to politicians on the ground?
Well, because I'm an organizer first, I always approach a lot of my conversations from a place of radical love. Like, I genuinely do want to be in community with people. I genuinely do want to understand why people are the way they are, why they function the way that they do. So when I had my conversations with like Alex and Corey and Jamal and them, like I asked them real questions. I asked them like, you know, real procedural questions. And some answers I got really good, thorough answers, and some things you could just tell that they were just avoiding. Like I asked AOC verbatim, I asked her, I said, why do you continuously defend Nancy Pelosi whenever, you know, they want to throw y'all under the bus to protect themselves? They do it every single time. They have no respect for you. So like what's the strategy of talking and being with these people if they're not actually gonna respect us and our principles? And you know, this was like having the conversations with them really solidified for me as an organizer, especially as an abolitionist, as a communist. I don't really even believe in electoral politics principally anyway. I think that representative democracy does not get anywhere near to where we need to be, you know, to actually care about humanity. But if we're going to strategically be within this system, I'm going to build an outside infrastructure first. And talking to them and realizing, you know, all of the procedural, like respectability, decorum type of attitudes they're dealing with in Congress made me realize that this same white supremacist system is not going to dismantle itself. Like, we can't rely on the master to give us the tools to dismantle his house. And that's just reality of the situation. So if we're not, and if we're going to do an inside-outside strategy, if we're going to do an electoral strategy especially, the power lever has to be on the outside, not on the inside. And right now it's inverted. The power is on the inside. And that's why they feel like they can, you know, do the things they're doing with our tax dollars. That's why they can fucking convince us that for some reason when we ask for health care, it's an entitlement. But when they spend tens of billions of dollars buying countries that we don't fucking agree with, that shit is something that we're supposed to be doing with our tax dollars. That makes sense. That's strategic. That's to protect us. But you're telling me that it's not my human right to have health care and survive and thrive in the richest country in the world, but it's your right to take my money and go bomb countries that I don't even support these wars. A majority of Americans don't support these wars. You're taking our money and you're going to pollute the earth. I don't fucking support that. The U.S. being the #1 polluter. I don't support my money going to private contractors and defense contractors. I don't support my money going to subsidies for these oil and gas companies. I don't support that shit. So how come y'all feel entitled to spend my money in this way, but I shouldn't be entitled to get health care. I shouldn't be entitled to have housing. I shouldn't be entitled to have childcare. Like our priorities are backwards, and people that try to get you to solely focus on electoral politics instead of building infrastructures outside of government and just largely detaching yourself from this capitalist system and ignoring this power structure because it does not serve us. Instead of focusing on that, y'all are trying to tell me how to get along with fucking Democrats who have decided that it's more important to fund the police state than it is to protect my black body, than it is to give my kids health care or to make sure that there's clean water and clean air in black neighborhoods. Hell no. We do not agree. I do not get along with y'all, motherfucker, and I'm not going to pretend like I get along with y'all just to get some progress. We've been doing that for so long, and look where it's gotten us. Back to the same spot.
This is why I say the inside game is so flawed. So Brianna Joy Gray was on with Nick. I forget who else was. Oh, you. I think it was you, Afeni. And she pretty much clarified what Nick was saying when he says I don't support inside outside game, is that we don't support the current inside outside game of going in, flipping, you know, becoming somebody different and not following through. Like, that's the inside game that we're not for. So for example, let's say the squad is there, they're all elected. The inside game that I think works is if they're voting as a block. They're literally saying we're sitting on our hands, we're not voting for anything until this is brought to the floor. We're not voting for this until this is brought to the floor. We're not voting for this until that's taken out of the legislation. That's the inside game that I'm for. Yeah. You get what I'm saying? The inside game must mean you're inside to disrupt, not inside to join the corruption. You get what I'm saying? Like, that's a different inside game. That's not the inside game that I'm talking about.
Exactly. Yeah, they should be forcing a vote on everything. You know, not just
Exactly.
Medicare for all. Like ending the wars, $15 minimum wage, all these issues. They should be causing, like AOC said, they should be bringing the ruckus.
Right.
But they're not doing that. They're there to make friends because it's career first for them, and they don't care if their new targeted audience and voters becomes a more moderate Democrats.
Right.
So
Right.
I wanted to ask you guys, what does outside community organizing look like to you? Like, what should we be doing? How can we engage with our community and motivate them to work outside of the system and to take power away from corporations? How would that look like?
I think the overall strategy should be you have to meet people where they're at. So that basically means, so for example, where I am, we're just right at the border where the city of Paramount, Compton, and Long Beach meet. Um, the strategy there needs to be some sort of community action. So you're talking about food drives, you're talking about educational drives, because there's a lot of kids around here that may need some tutoring. There's things like that where you're helping the community, and once they come in, you're teaching them, hey, this is how the community, we want to run a community, this is how we should be doing things, let's all work together. But there first has to be a first step of bringing people together. And I think those food drives, something similar to like what Rome does, or clothing drives. You got school that's coming up. There's a lot of people that can't afford new school clothes for their kids, so there can be things, something like that. But anything where you're helping the less fortunate will be, to me, in my opinion, the first step in building that community that we all talk about. Because you have to get the people to show up, and getting people to show up when you're helping them, I think, is a very a great strategy to start off with.
Yeah.
So to expand on that, like, I think that, you know, people need to understand that mutual aid is for everybody. Like, it's solidarity, not charity. Like, building an infrastructure outside of the government helps everyone at the end of the day, because unless you're very, very wealthy, this system is not built for you. So, and especially if you're Black, this system already wasn't built for you. So, when we think about building infrastructure outside the government, we also think about like medical clinics. We think about alternatives to like drug treatment. Like, for example, the Black Panthers was doing drug treatment and treating drug addicts with acupuncture. Like, they were curing anxiety and depression with acupuncture, and they were setting up these clinics all throughout Harlem and the Bronx to train other people on how to heal Black people, how to heal their communities holistically, and really doing more research around that. If you want to delegitimize the police in your neighborhood, reach out to the Care Bears. Like, the Care Bears will come to your city and they will help you train people on how to be violence interrupters. And if you want to see violent crime go down in your neighborhood without having to call the police, like, that's a really great place to start as well.
Yeah.
Like, there are so many different ways that we can stand in solidarity with our communities. There are so many different ways that we can, exercise our First Amendment right to express ourselves and to say, like, this capitalist fucking system does not work for a majority of us, and all these people that are producing all the means of this labor. We deserve better. And if you're not going to give us better, then we're going to go somewhere else. And community keeps us safe. And we know that this government is not going to do that. When we start to move away from the system and just kind of, like I said, ignore that power structure, that is when they'll start to come to us and meet us where we are as the people. Because at the end of the day, we are the powerful ones. And when we concentrate our power, when we focus on building power amongst ourselves, then and only then we'll be able to overcome all of the obstacles that this system has set above us. But it is not going to come through electoral politics and electing people to the same federal government that has been bought and paid for by these oil and gas companies, by these big corporations, by big tech, and all these different entities that are not working for our best interests as the American constituency and for most of the globe, honestly.
We have to get the point across to people that it's regressive to keep relying on electoral politics, because all it leads to is making corporations more powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And like when it comes to healthcare, I'm really glad you brought that up, Afeni. Like how the Black Panthers try to treat people. You know, like that's something that we should try to implement more when we organize with our communities. Is rely more on holistic measures, because what these corporations do, big pharma, like they're not actually going to try to cure diseases. They want people to keep coming back and buying their treatments. And then these foods, like the food industry, they put all these products in their food that can cause autoimmune diseases.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're in collaboration with big pharma, because when we get those autoimmune diseases, we're going to have to rely on big pharma to treat those diseases. And then we're inundated in debt. And then we have to ask like a loan from the bank or something. Like these corporations are all helping each other out in this way. So we have to get that point across to people about how regressive electoral politics is, because they're not actually serving us. Like they're serving, the people who pay them, and it's not us. I mean, we give them donations, but I mean, they get more money from the corporations.
What I want to do, Franco and Afeni, we kind of briefly talked about this with FHL. Like, I want to make FHL one of the community groups that's doing this, because we have to get, like, we're kind of like Rome kind of does something like it. I just think that we need to do it on a larger scale, and as FHL grows, and as Franco grows, as all of our comrades grow, I think it could fall to us to do that, to begin the stages of saying, hey, let's organize real structures of mutual aid, because it takes all of us working together in order for this to work. Like, the chain has to be solid. And I think that we could be that lightning rod, because we reach people, all over the world. So we have to use the technology. Like, the way people did it before may not be the way we do it now. We have to use technology to our advantage, and it allows us to expand. It allows us to communicate. I mean, just look at us. You guys are in DC. I'm in Cali. Like, this is what we have to do. And if we're talking about this needs to be done, maybe it falls to us to do.
Yeah, online communities translate to on-the-ground communities. I was thinking, like, this is every Thursday I meet with some of my audience members from Discord, and we talk about solutions. And I was thinking about assigning projects to some people. Like, how can we get the message out to more people when they otherwise wouldn't have come across these suppressed channels? Like, we're trying to grow. Like, we're trying to find other ways, like through Rockman and stuff, to grow. But nonetheless, we're still being suppressed. And a lot of people really don't care about politics. It's going to be almost impossible for them to find us. So we can assign projects to our audience members to engage with their communities, hand out flyers. What exactly will be in those flyers? That's something that we discuss in the solutions panel discussions. So what do you guys think about that? Like, assigning projects and assignments to your audience members so they can help spread the word about how community organizing is more efficient than electoral politics.
I mean, well, I think not just our audience, but just in general, I think that's a good idea. So it could apply to giving assignments to our audience, or whoever, any sort of community, any grouping, any meeting we're doing, just dividing that sort of labor up, I think would be beneficial.
Oh, hold on. Ooh.
She hit the button.
Okay, my bad. But I definitely agree with all of that, and that's what the Black Panthers were doing. Like, the Black Panthers, the Young Lords, what was the Patriots? I cannot remember what the white anti-racist allies that were working alongside the Black Panthers. That's what they were doing. They were making sure they were going into their community and politically educating their community. The type of world that we want to see, because I'm an abolitionist. I know y'all are probably abolitionists. Like the type of world that we want to see is going to require a lot of healing. It's going to require a lot of
Mm.
communication. It's going to require a lot of growth and love and patience. Because there is a lot of trauma that has to be undone within the Black community, but just within working class people, period. There's a lot of trauma that comes behind your survival constantly being in limbo. So really undoing that and having those conversations, because abolition is not unimaginable. I mean, it's not impossible, but it is unimaginable, and it comes through communication. It comes through conversations. It comes through a collective bargaining agreement of what safety looks like, and how it can be sustainable for the majority of us, and not just the few.
Yeah, I could talk to you guys like for hours about this stuff. What's the best path forward when it comes to community organizing? But we are at the hour mark here. We're definitely gonna get together again. I hope. I'll reach out again. We can talk some more. But I'm glad that the shift is that things are shifting away from just diagnosing the problem, criticizing the mainstream media over and over again. I mean, that's important, but I think a lot of the audience members in this sphere already understand what the problems are. Now we're starting to talk about solutions, which is, it's great that that we already diagnosed that electoral politics is not the way forward. Now we're discussing, what is the best path forward when it comes to, working outside of the system. So any last words you guys want to leave the audience with, Compton, Jay, and Afeni?
Oh, you go first, Afeni?
Oh, sorry, it is not okay. It was not working. uh, just as far as like white leftists go, like understand again, standing in solidarity with Black people and standing in solidarity with other working class people, other working class groups is not the same thing. You know, when we talk about different things like the labor movement, all the other things, remember Black people was left out of that. So like now they have like the solutions that we're asking for need to meet the mark for every single
Mm.
person that's being oppressed under this system. So we're asking for more. And if you are offended by us asking for more, then you're probably still racist. You need to unpack some shit. Um, if you want to catch me live, catch me every Saturday. I'm on the Facts and Fire podcast on the Fred Hampton Leftist Network. I will also be on Uncivil Disobedience on Monday, and I will be on. Oh my gosh, I'll be on Nico's house tomorrow at 1 o'clock. So yeah.
Mm.
Awesome.
For me, I will be on Hard Lens a week from today. I do have another one set up, but I'm not going to announce that until the details are worked out. Next week, I'll be back on my podcast shows. I was off this week because I moved and I don't have internet access at my new place yet. So next week, same show, Fred Hampton Leftist Network, 3 p.m. Eastern, and I'm back on at 7:30 Eastern with the new left podcast. My show is Straight Out of Politics, is a playoff of Straight Out of Compton, and follow me on Twitter at Compton Made Me, and that's all I got. Franco, thank you for having us.
Thank you guys for coming on. You guys are doing amazing work, both on camera and off camera, on the ground. So, keep up the amazing work. I really appreciate you guys coming on. And everybody else, stay informed. Take care, everybody.